Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Lush Gardener. So today's video is not going to be more of talking about the care tips, but this is something that I wanted to talk about it from a very long time. So it's going to be more like a chat rather than offering any care tips on the succulents. Now you can see these are a bunch of echeverias in front of you. Now, this is something that I wanted to express from a very long time, and probably I might have forgotten about it, or maybe I didn't realize it, how important it is. But over the period of time, looking at when people tend to ask me questions, or when I tend to log into my Facebook and I happen to see posts wherein people tend to advise, a lot of times what I have noticed is there isn't any problem, but people create problems and then they look out for solutions. As I've always mentioned about this earlier as well, the more you leave your succulents alone, the much better they will do. And a lot of times succulents do well on their own, but then because we want them to grow really fast, due to which we tend to damage them. A lot of times either it is the environmental conditions, or probably it's because of the wrong soil mix. A lot of problems arise, and then the succulent starts to have issues. But let's say you have overcome everything, like you have your proper environmental conditions, you have a proper soil mix, but still a lot of times accidents do happen, and that's very normal with plants, not only with succulents but with any other plant. A plant might do quite well and suddenly one fine day it starts to have issues, and this is very common in gardening. It's nothing related with your care, or it's nothing related that you have made a mistake. It's natural to happen. Any plant can die at any point of time, even though you are giving the best care. These are certain things that happen in the world of gardening. But there are certain things which I have seen, which are mistakes that are committed, which does not need to be done. For example, the very common one that I have noticed, and I thought I will share it with you guys, is related with overwatering. Now this is where I have noticed, let's say a person is having a plant or succulent that is getting overwatered. I have seen a lot of people giving advice that use fungicides. Now guys, your succulent that is getting overwatered and it's getting rotted, there is no connection with fungicide. The succulent is already damaged to quite an extent, and then using a chemical on this will further damage the plant. For example, let's say that this succulent is getting overwatered. The best thing what I have to do is take out the succulent from the pot, because probably the soil is holding a lot of moisture. I have to take out the succulent and keep it in a dry spot. I do not need to use any fungicide for that, or any kind of insecticide, or any kind of pesticide, because it's nothing related with any of these. You are doing a wrong diagnosis. You just need to take out the succulent and keep it on a dry surface, so that there is no more moisture that can come in contact with the succulent. Again, it depends how soon you tend to do it. A lot of times it's already very late and the succulent is almost dead. So there is no purpose of adding fungicide. Please don't use fungicide just for the heck of it, or just because someone tells you. When you have a succulent that is getting rotted with overwatering, your fungicide is not going to help. Apart from that, I have always seen people use fungicide left, right and center without even having knowledge about it. If your succulent is doing quite well, why do you need to add fungicide? Remember, most of these fungicides are chemicals. They can do damage to your plant. If your plant is doing quite well, it does not have any issues, but you're going ahead and putting in so much of fungicide, it will damage the plant. Another thing what I have seen is, if people find mealybugs on their succulents, they go ahead and use fungicide. Mealybugs and fungicides, they are two opposite poles. Fungicide is used for fungus. For mealybugs, if you want to treat mealybugs, you have to use insecticides. Your fungicide is not going to help you treat mealybugs. This is another major problem that I have seen with a lot of people. Also, remember guys, I have been growing succulents for almost 8 years. Probably this is the 9th year, I'm not very sure. I started back in 2015. Since 2015 and the present year 2024, I have never ever used any kind of commercial fungicide, or I have not used any chemical fungicide. The only thing that I tend to use as a precaution is cinnamon powder, that too just a pinch of it. Apart from that, I have never ever used even a single let's say particle of fungicide in my succulent pots, and my succulents have been doing quite well. I have never used any kind of commercial fungicide. The only thing that I use, as I said, is dry cinnamon powder, precaution as a precaution, once in 3 weeks or once in 2 weeks. Again, depends, just as a precaution, but I have never used any kind of fungicides. So you have to be extremely careful. Remember, the only dangerous fungus or the only dangerous fungi that can affect your succulent is powdery mildew. And powdery mildew affects majorly on the leaves and not in the root area. I have already made a video on how to deal with powdery mildew. If you haven't watched that video, I'll put the link in the description below. You can check it out. So powdery mildew is the only type of mold or fungus that tends to damage your succulents to quite an extent. I would say that it is one of the deadliest fungus that can affect your succulent, which shows up only on the leaves and not in the root area. The only way you can treat your powdery mildew the organic way is with the help of raw milk. You'll be able to see in that video if you happen to check it out. So even if you're going to use fungicide in the soil, it is not going to stop the powdery mildew because that shows up on the leaves. It's a completely different type of fungus. A lot of fungicides that we use in the soil is not going to prevent powdery mildew. A lot of times powdery mildew that I have noticed has always come from the side of cellar. Personally, growing succulents, as I said, it's been 8 years, 9 years probably. I had never seen powdery mildew on my succulents. I only noticed it when I had purchased succulents and they had come in. Within a week, I noticed that they started to develop powdery mildew. I had never experienced it when I was growing it. I never had any issue with powdery mildew. Touch wood, even till date, I don't have any issue with powdery mildew. You would be surprised to know that I don't have a major issue with mealybugs. The only time I have issue with mealybugs is when I have blooms or flowers showing up on my succulents. That's the only time wherein I notice mealybugs or aphids. Apart from that, let's say 90 to 95% of my collection are free from any kind of mealybugs. I don't use any chemicals. I don't use any insecticides. Probably it's because of the soil mix that I have, which is very lean in nutrients. It's not organic rich. It's mainly sand. So probably that is what is helping my succulents being protected from mealybugs. Apart from that, the health of the succulent also tends to matter. When the succulent is healthy, it will automatically repel the mealybugs or any kind of pests or any kind of fungus. That's why we have to focus on keeping our succulents healthy. So that is what I have noticed. It's because of my soil mix that is very loose, porous, well draining, very lean in organic matter. Probably that is why I don't have a lot of issue with mealybugs. Being said that, I will show you another example. Now this is my Echeveria raindrop. You can see it looks a little bit weird. That's because it is getting a lot of blooms. Apart from that, there is the environment is very cloudy. It's not getting a lot of light. Apart from that, these 3 blooms are pulling out a lot of energy from the mother plant. So I will be cutting it off. Now if you're going to take a closer look, let me zoom in. You will not find any bugs on the mother plant or on the succulent, but you will find mealybugs on the bloom stalk. You can see this. This is the reason why I say it's always better to cut off the bloom stalk. I'm just going to cut it off anyways. And you can see this, the amount of mealybugs on the bloom stalk. So this is the only time that I happen to find mealybugs on my succulents. But apart from that, I have been lucky enough to not have them in my succulents. I'm going to cut off this bloom stalk as well. And here you go, you can see this. It's very tiny. I don't think it's going to be visible, but here we go, you can see this. So this is the only time that I get mealybugs on my succulents, but apart from that, I never have an issue. As you can see, this bloom stalk was completely infested with mealybugs, but nothing on the actual succulent. This is my Echeveria raindrop. So this is the only time that I tend to get mealybugs on my succulents, but apart from this, luckily, touch wood, I don't have mealybugs on my other succulents. I do keep a check every 2 to 3 weeks. This is what I have been advising you guys from day one. Always do a routine check once in 2 weeks or once in 3 weeks. Cinnamon powder is something that has helped me a lot. Apart from that, whenever I see mealybugs, I tend to brush them off with a soft bristled makeup brush. Never used any insecticides or any kind of chemicals. The soil is lean in organic matter. These things make the succulent healthy, and then automatically once the succulent is healthy, it tends to fight against these pests or fungus. So always remember, don't do things if they are not necessary. Adding of fungicides to a succulent that is getting rotted from overwatering does not have any connection. Using of fungicides against mealybugs, there is no connection. You are just damaging the succulent further. Using of fungicides, the mealybugs are still going to be attached onto the succulent. The mealybugs are already damaging the succulent, and then adding of fungicides unnecessary again in return damages the succulent. So you have to be extremely careful. The most important thing, leave your succulent on its own. Do a visual check, water when the soil is completely bone dry, offer a good amount of morning direct sunlight for 5 to 6 hours for your brightly colored succulents, and it is going to take care of everything. So it's starting to rain. I'm just going to move the succulent away from rain because we have done the bloom cutting. So that's about it, guys. I hope that you liked this video. If you did, please hit the like button, and if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe, and keep propagating.